The first day on Wednesday was how do you build confidence, and then yesterday what does it mean to be vulnerable for you, for others? What does vulnerability look and feel like? Today we're going to talk about question number 3, and that is, what would living in peace mean for you, and what would it look like? So we started with a definition. And peace, as defined, is a state of tranquility or quiet, such as freedom from civil disturbance, a state of security or order within a community provided by law or custom. 2 is freedom from disquieting or oppressive thoughts or emotions. 3 is harmony in personal relations. And that's broken down into 2 forms: a state of period of mutual concord between governments, and B, a pact or agreement to end hostilities between those who have been at war or in a state of enmity. Offered the possibility of negotiated peace. So, breaking those down.
This is on this.
Yeah.
Just didn't print right.
Breaking those down, that gives us quite the start.
Yeah.
A state of tranquility or quiet, such as.
Yeah. I like that the one definition spoke about it in the black and the other one in the white, like a state of tranquility versus the absence of disquiet.
Yeah.
Which I think has interesting implications, which we may discover over the course of this next hour.
So one's externally, one's internally.
Yeah.
As I read 1 and 2, a state of tranquility or quiet is this
outside
way,
of me.
because you can be quiet and tranquil in deep, disturbing thoughts. Right?
That's true.
Or seem quiet and tranquil, heavily stressed. And then the second one is freedom from disquieting or oppressive thoughts or emotions.
Oh, inside of you. I get
right?
it. I get what you're saying, yeah. Yeah.
And then 3 is interpersonal relationships, harmony in personal relations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, I get it. Outside, inside, and then interpersonal.
Right?
Ways of looking at it. And then societal.
And then societal, on the larger community sense.
Peace in the traditional sense of like war ending and it being peacetime.
I see harmonious in synonyms. I resonate with that word, harmonious, yeah.
Yeah. No, we also put down some synonyms too, different words for peace, right? So peacefulness, stability, harmony, tranquility, calm, amity, conquered, I guess it would be pronounced. I lived in a town called Concord once. Pacification.
Concord, like the grape jelly, just in case.
Like the grapes.
Because I thought you said conquered, like
a C-O-N-Q-U.
Yeah,
conquered.
I mean, that could be peace after being conquered, right?
It's sort of enforced peace. You will be peaceful. And then order. One of the words that comes to mind for me as a synonym around the personal part of it is equanimity. Right.
Define that.
Equanimity is that ability to stay calm in the face of anything, right? Happiness, sadness, you can navigate it with a sense of calm. So that's something I aspire to. That's something that I've worked towards, right? Being able to have that, right? Being able to not be swept away by the waves of life, by the waves of other people's feelings and the waves of just the happenstances of life, because when you really step back, even when things that are challenging happens, we don't have to be upset. Being upset, having an upset reaction to something is actually a choice.
I hate that. I get it. But it's like it's
hard.
It's hard. It's very hard.
It's hard
to find that peace.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Hi Master
Hi.
Hurricane. Hi Kusla.
Oh, hi Hurricane.
Let's see. I can do that in some situations, like when it's my kids.
That's like a lot of people can't do that. Hats off to you for that.
It's weird for me to do my job. I need it to not be peaceful. However, I would love to be put out of a job. I know it would bring peace, not just society, but within my family too.
All right. It makes me curious what your job is, that you need to have not peace to do it, but I feel that.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So, living in peace, state of tranquility or quiet. All right, so what I'm going to do, I would like to start with a writing that I just put out this morning, because a state of tranquility, this is peace for me in my life. I was talking the last couple of days about what I was experiencing with the stalker and my ex from a few years ago. And it opened up a door to a lot of scabs in my mind. They wouldn't be scars, but they're still sitting there, things that were left unsaid. And it didn't bring peace from me. If anything, it brought a lot of noise, and it's been noisy like that.
You mean the scabs or looking at them?
The scabs.
The existence of them.
The existence of them. And it's been really heavy. And this morning, I finalized the writing, and this is peaceful for me, being able to write it and then share it. So if you guys don't mind, I have a short read. For the last week, I've been the target of unfounded rumors, harassment, and stalking by someone in the community who will be known in this writing as F. Based on the work I've done with Uncovered Conversations and other D-types who have acted as accountability partners, I've learned that it's best to put a statement of the facts as soon and as clearly as possible. This isn't my first time dealing with these kinds of issues. My work as a community educator for the past decade has put me in front of many people. A few people with unchecked mental health situations or histories of making trouble for others resorted to spreading rumors, harassment, and stalking as a way to avenge a grievance. This is a common pattern in our community, in which the best way to harm a person is through their reputation. Unfortunately, reputational harm is like a recurring injury. Once it happens, a person becomes increasingly vulnerable to it happening again. Since I believe anyone active in our community could at any time face this kind of harm, I'm offering my thoughts and insights on the matter as a public service. Here's what I learned from my own experiences. I hope you never go through this yourself, but if you do, I hope my insights will help you. The first insight: speak up for yourself and handle the problem while it's small. I had an incident with a former business and romantic partner, M, which started in May 28. The relationship ended after 5 years. I didn't respond publicly as this was a private matter and there was no conflict at first. Things became contentious in the late fall of 2018, and that was when the problem started. Upon reflection, I think it would have been better to speak up about the challenges while the circumstances were fresh. I think it's important to understand why I remained silent. The way if you encounter a similar situation, you won't be paralyzed as I was. It's important to understand why I remained silent, so if you encounter these circumstances yourself, they won't paralyze you like they did me. Social norms. This took place over the course of 2018, when the whole Me Too movement was happening. I believe that the movement was helpful. The majority of bad actors disappeared overnight once the dominoes started falling. The movement also led to bad relationships being pulled into the spotlight, which, as an unfortunate side effect, allowed some to use it as a new relationship weapon. Community norms. As someone who has hosted events for over a decade, I'm a firm believer of believe the victim. I also believe in asking the accused their side of the story. If this community is built on truth and transparency, it should be able to withstand looking at multiple sides of a story, no? But during this time, no one wanted to ruffle the feathers of accusers because it deemed the wrong thing to do. The advice I received was not to say anything because it would look bad, made me look defensive, and like I was trying to prove a point. Fearing these results, I followed this advice and remained silent in the face of accusations. Lack of support. My accusers cited several specific incidences to which there were witnesses. I contacted these witnesses who privately refuted her version of the events, but they were afraid to speak up publicly for fear of reprisal and their own reputational damage for questioning a victim about their narrative. I understood their position as it would have been reputational suicide to question a victim. The result was that those who witnessed what actually happened sat in silence, while those who supported the accuser spoke up. It became a mountain of criticism and scrutiny that weighed a lot. Too much time passed. An even more challenging factor was that time had passed before the airing of grievances started. When the breakup with my partner happened in May of 2018, there was nothing to speak about because everything was calm and amicable. But 6 months later, she started connecting with local organizations, sending out a 9-page manifesto. It started making rounds to larger organizations and event producers. How do you counter something like that? Second insight: if it's business, treat it like it's business and insist on your right to be heard. Many of us who are active in the community also work within the realm. For those who do, it isn't just a relationship, it's a business. Reputational damage translates into doors being closed and its attendant loss of income. While I dissuaded from it at the time, but one possible solution would have been a public statement, much like we were recently discussing on Uncovered Conversations. A statement where you say to folks, listen, this is what I have going on, just so you're aware. These are the circumstances, this is what happened, and here are the reasons why it's still safe to interact with me. It's still safe to work with me. Just put it out there ahead of time. There needed to be a place for me to present evidence and witnesses for the process, for my side of the story to be heard. There still isn't such a space. We as a community need to create. Third insight, know the community groups that might help and those who won't. The impact this incident had on me was emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually crippling for over half a decade. Having to lead every new connection and business venture with, hey, just so you know, has paid a heavy toll over time. Thankfully, there was organizations out there that did the legwork, asked me the questions and debunked the stories by making a few inquiries. Some of these organizations were Claw, Eastern Mountain, Jamcon, Fetish Factory, Onyx, New York Northeast, with Daddy Sage as president board member, and Surf Festival. On the other hand, there was organizations who did not have a legitimate process for engaging with community members when it involves violation accusations and harassment. Tess, who invoked a lifetime ban and then insisted I would have to sign an NDA before they would discuss the details. Mind you, I wasn't then, nor had I ever been a member. 2, Dark Odyssey. And I quote, we have a consent team that investigates and they found you guilty and there's no recourse. The owner, Greg of Dark Odyssey. MSC, Master Slave Conference. I inquired about attending and their board said, as there are stories, no. Self board members decided as well. And then there was NCSF and their non-existent banned bad actor list. This is a list they claim doesn't exist, and yet unfounded information about me was made available by them by phone, as well as unfounded allegations being discussed openly by their representatives across the country. I was able to address this directly with the director of NCSF, Susan Wright, a couple years ago at an APA conference in Washington, D.C., APA being the American Psychological Association. We both happened to be at the conference, and so I asked her about it. She denied the list's existence 3 times until I explained the toll that it had taken, including my thoughts of unaliving. Then she was forthcoming, and her husband began taking the lead of the conversation at that point. 4th insight, recognize the impact on the people you care about and speak up for them. The harm done to me impacted those close to me. They haven't been able to tell their sides of the story, what they witnessed and experienced. They were silenced in any of the circles where my name was mentioned. They've been turned away at events and uninvited, even though they are hugely respected in the community for their own involvement and contributions. In 2019, my partner Kat had Department of Buildings complaint filed against her establishment, Decadence, which was a safe venue for all walks of life. Not only was I mentioned specifically by name in the complaint, but the space was falsely accused of being an illegal sex dungeon. This can be seen online. Today, there's a guy I will call Jay in a Brooklyn poly group who openly says he, Joshua, is a psychopathic unaliver and rapist. But the folks who witness these things are afraid to speak up because of fear of being blacklisted from these same communities. We are an insular community, an inherently tribal one. Because of this, people are particularly afraid to upset others. They are afraid to ask questions or investigate on behalf of someone who has been blacklisted for fear of being blacklisted themselves. The fear is infectious, but who wants to live like that? 5th insight, recognize the harm this does to our community and act to change it for all of us. Our community exists to offer mutual support and friendship to others who, like ourselves, are excluded from less tolerant spaces. But people have left the community for fear of making mistakes and sensing that there would be no due process or support in a wider scope beyond people just picking sides. The continued spreading of misinformation about folks, not just myself, but the greater community, and the lack of reform, transformation, etc., shadows the integrity and safety of the community. The rapid growth of gatekeeping in the names of safety and curated groups creates favoritism and lacks integrity and transparency when things go awry. For example, Tess Fess's consent violation, understanding that Tess and Test-Fest aren't the same body, but they work under the same structure. Test-Fest consent violation process is an example of this. A whole other class of victim gets created through these circumstances. I've never thrown the word victim around in reference to myself, but it's important that folks who find themselves on the receiving end of ill-founded accusations speak up and tell their side of the story. The accused in these cases, victims of false accusations, also have a right to be heard. This way people can hear all sides and discern for themselves what they believe happened. The intention here is to be able to make a statement and move forward. There's nothing to win other than the hopes of informing others so they have all the information they need to make better informed decisions when dealing with either party, should they choose. Sixth insight, reflect and acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged. It would have been important for me to speak up when M first put out the letter to folks in the community, and not just to contest the content of the letter, which accused me of things that I didn't do, but for me to reflect on who I was in the relationship and the things that I did do. Time passing did allow me to look at and be able to address things that happened that I wasn't aware of at the time. For example, I later found out that M had expressed feeling like she was being used by others to build intimate connections with me. To think what that must feel like for her, what that does to a person over a period of years, and I just wasn't aware of how much it was happening. I am culpable of a lot more than just that, though. I lied, I cheated, I caused harm by my lack of communication, my immaturity and inexperience with relationships. I lied about my intimate relationships, which affected our trust as well as our mental and emotional safety. I didn't give up. I didn't have the courage to have the hard talks. I gave up on my responsibilities within our relationship. I didn't see the pain she was experiencing. I made her feel invisible and invalidated within our relationship. I didn't hear her. I didn't see her. My intentions turned selfish over time. I made a lot of mistakes, and I take responsibility for them. At this point, I only aim to learn from the trail of heartbreak and disappointment. In the years since, I've been looking to set things right. A position I have and will always have is being open to talking with anyone at any time about anything. I have all my receipts, and I always have. I'm an open book. I own the parts that are mine and continue to be open to conversations with an intention of getting the truth as the realization of my part in the breakup of this relationship become more apparent over time. If you have any further questions, I urge you to contact my accountability pod, the Masters of Uncovered Conversations. It's a hard process, but it's one of growth. In love and leather. Joshua. Going through that process, the last 7 days, I made peace with everything. What happened in the past, like I've forgiven, I've found self-compassion and stuff like that, but what I haven't given myself forgiveness on is having been silent. And this shit carried on for 6 years. 6 years in November is when the shit kicked off.
Right.
And it's like, I did a posting on Facebook today because of how much gratitude I have for not throwing the towel in the number of times that I thought about it. Because making peace has brought incredible people and experiences into my life that I would never have had an opportunity for. And not to ever judge people who ever decide to go that route, because I've been there and I understand it, and I will never make judgment on a person who decides to do that. But today, on the train down to Home Depot, I realized that if I did throw in the towel, everything present in my life wouldn't be here. And I know people by 2 degrees who have unalived themselves because of circumstances like this, because of staying silent, because of not having support. And to find peace, it's paramount. I mean, I was drowning with that for a long time. And this writing has allowed me to put that stone down.
I'm glad you did it.
And it affects all of them for me.
Yeah,
all the definitions of peace.
For sure. For sure. Oh, I love you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Liz. So I wanted to read that because it's like, that's a way for me to just deliver myself some peace.
Yeah.
Right. So I appreciate you guys sitting here with me while I read it.
That's the first time you read the whole thing out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that feels good doing it?
It feels good is a word.
How does it feel?
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Have you posted it yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Scary. Because the attempt to take my peace is at stake. Right? It's like I found this level of peace if I left the rock in my bag. And I could just keep going knowing I have this rock in my bag. Or I can risk disturbing the peace by taking the rock out and putting it on the ground.
Or putting the bag down that doesn't have your name on it. You've been carrying bags that don't even have your name on them. They're not your stuff.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about this particular
No, I know, but that's it. So I think it's a lot of the stuff in here is all of that. So I give you a lot of credit for being willing to put all that on paper and then put that out there.
Yeah. So thank you guys for letting me read that. Thank you, Six, and thank you for all the comments in the feed. So while I catch a breath, why don't you share a little bit about peace, Mama?
Well, it's interesting as you were talking in the section that you write about the people who were affected, the other people who were affected, myself being one of them. I started to see what it would look like if I wrote a version of that, of what happened to me. It never occurred to me. I don't know that I'll do that, but what that looked like sort of went ahead of my mind for a second, and that's neither here nor there. Peace on a very changing tax for me. Peace is something that I aspire to. When people say, what is it that you want? What do you aspire? What do you hope for? Peace, very simply, is one of them. I imagine that if I can get to a place where I can live in what I understand to be peace, that would be a good thing. And by that I mean an absence of a break from the angry voices in my head and the angry voices in your head, whoever the you is, right? Like to come to a place where I don't have to listen to the angry voices in my head. Here's Kat's daily tears. And people don't have to come at me with their stuff. Like that there gets to be a point in time where there can just be, like, we can always speak calmly. We can always speak from a place of love, even if we're having hard conversations, even if things are challenging, right? Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's not ever going to be possible, but it's something I dream about and I aspire to. The only thing I can do is my work. I'm doing all of the work I can to be, that word I said earlier, equanimity, I really, really aspire to that. I have lived very tumultuously inside myself. I have lived very at the behest of waves of emotion that I haven't been able to handle, and irrational thinking that like spins out of control if I'm not careful. And I want peace from that. And then I want the people around me to do the same thing, so that we know we always have each other's best at heart, and that no matter how challenging something feels like, we can speak calmly and we can all speak from a place of love, right? Because beyond peace is love to me. Like, that's the highest form of energy that we can have or share. And when I'm not at peace, when I'm tore up inside by voices and by feelings, I can't come from a place of love. I can't remember that whoever you is and I have love at the bottom of what we share as human beings together. And that's why peace is so important to me. That's why I aspire to have peace in my life, because I want to be in that space, and I want to be in that space with all the people who I love and who I care about and who I know care about me. And so I'm in a place too where I'm actively, it's like another leveling up for me. Not everybody has this aspiration. Not everybody wants this. And so for the people who don't, the people who have been in my life that don't, the people who don't want to come along towards this place of love and peace and equanimity, like, you know, I talked about it, and I don't know if I talked about it yesterday or the day before. Brene Brown is an inspirational speaker who I really think a lot of, and I heard her talk once. She's on TikTok, right? So I heard her on TikTok, and she talked about her and her husband having this system that they use, right? Like, where in a partnership, you figure everybody's got 50-50, right? But you come home from work one day and you only have 20 to give, and your partner's doing well, and they say, that's okay, I got your 80, right? Like, I'll carry you right now because you don't have it and I do. And then, you know, that reverse could happen another day, right? But some days you come home and I have 20 and you only have 20. And what do we do then? We talk about how we're going to be kind to one another, right? Like, when we don't have it, we just need to be kind to one another. If I really love you and you really love me, then that's what we should be. That's how we should prioritize our relationships and our interactions. Like, when I only have 20, I can be cranky. When I only have 20, I don't hear things accurately. Like, filters come up for me where I'm not hearing things the way they're really being said. But I hope for the patience and the kindness and the compassion for someone who knows me and cares about me to see that and to understand that if I'm speaking a little bit off, I don't mean it. I'm just not myself right now. And to give me the grace to own if I misspeak, to own it, to correct, and to know that it's okay. I didn't have to be perfect. It was okay if I made a mistake. If it was okay if I misspoke, and that you can help me. You know that the people who love me and care about me won't stand back in judgment of me and say, "Oh, there she goes again." Right? They'll say, "I see you, and here, let me help you. If I had the space within me to help you, I will do that, and then I'll do the same. Like, you get the same grace from me." So I have a lot to say, apparently, about living in peace and how much it means to me and how much I aspire to have that be in my life. So there, I'll get off the soapbox now.
No, you don't. Listen, look, one of the things we have to do is you need to write that shit out, right? Because that is, you have that bag too, right? Of being unheard and having to go into survival mode after survival mode, right? And
yeah, I mean, and I'm the first person to say, like, before I did a lot of this work, I was one of those people. I came across negative. I was anxious. I wasn't someone you wanted to be around all the time. I wasn't somebody I didn't have the grace, patience, or kindness to tolerate myself, right? And so how can I ask you to do that if I can't do it for me? So this has been a lot of hard work for me, and I'm getting to that point where I can hold that for myself. And so the place of the level up is I'm going to start expecting the people around me to do the same thing for themselves and for me. And if you don't want to or you can't, then it'll be time for me to make some changes, because I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't want to be surrounded by impatience and intolerance and judgment, and I just don't. And but I have to be the person. I have to walk that walk, before I can hold anybody else up to anything. Like, I have to be able to be a person of that word before I have any business expecting the people in my life to also be people of that word or that talk, that walk. But that's where I'm headed. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate it.
So there's a couple comments I want to
Hurricane, I like that. Don't do unto others that you don't want to go through yourself.
Let's see. Rule number 1, protect the property. 2, take care of yourself before taking care of others.
That's put your mask on before you help others on the airplane.
And then 3, don't do unto others you don't want to go through yourself. Yeah. I need to fill that up.
That's plenty. I just needed a sip. That kind of stuff makes me dry.
So, peace.
Yeah. So how about you guys?
How about you guys? What does peace mean to you guys? How do you guys access it or taste it or experience it.
Yeah.
I experience peace when I'm in a workflow.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm distracted, but creating, it's
Yeah.
I find
That's a good space.
I find peace there. I find peace in the tub.
Like
when
bathtub?
when
You
I
get to
submerge myself, it's very peaceful for me.
Like, do you put your ears down so you're
I go up into this
right, so
this
that
much here.
everything's quiet from under the water?
Everything's quiet.
Yeah.
The only thing I keep out is my nose and my mouth.
Oh, so you can breathe, that'd be good.
So I can breathe.
It'd be great to like piece yourself all the way out. Let's not do that.
Photography is
Yes, I get that.
it's peaceful in the
It's
sense
stressful.
of being present.
It's yes. And there's a difference between I'm closest to peace when I'm most fully present, but being present doesn't always mean there's peace. Right? Like when we do photography stuff, I'm still very anxious about the mistakes that I make and what I don't know, but I'm present. I'm like in the moment. I'm just not having a lot of peace.
Let's see. Fishing, most definitely.
Yeah, I've heard that. I'm not a fisher, but I understand that that's a lot why people fish.
Writing and drawing, from Fatally.
Nice. Thanks, Fatally.
Master Hurricane says, I feel peace when I'm being heard and understood when it comes to others.
Yeah. That's such a good feeling, isn't it? When you take the time or you get the courage sometimes to communicate something you're afraid to, and then you feel really seen and heard. That's a really good feeling.
Painting and writing, listening to music on my headphones, actually closing myself up with music, the drums and beats. Awesome, Kushla. Would I say music makes me peaceful? No.
Mm-mm. It makes you something good, but it's peaceful.
It's
isn't
not
it?
peaceful.
Mm-mm.
It activates me.
It's like
Yeah, I like.
he listens to like Hans Zimmer and all these like the big Batman soundtrack kind of music, and it's like, and he gets full of energy and gets loud, and all of a sudden the creative juices start flowing, and it's not peaceful, but it's really something to watch.
Mary, I've been finding peace when I swim, when I heal someone other than myself, and when I'm with people that see me for who I am.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, I get peace when I'm helping others. Right? I get peace when I sit with another person and then there's some aspect of my experience or mostly my life experience or whatever that can be helpful to another person and I'm engaged in that process. I'm also very present when that's happening and that usually feels really good.
I feel peace the most sitting with myself in nature or in water.
Yeah, I know I feel at peace in nature. I just haven't been in it in a while. Here in the urban jungle, there's not a lot of nature nearby.
We have our garden outside.
Well, I do feel a little bit of peace when I sit outside with my tomato forest. I have a tomato forest outside where I planted.
We have quite the forest.
Like 15 tomato plants that have all took off, and there's like a jungle of tomato out there, which is kind of fun.
Hi, Britt.
Oh, hey, Britt.
We also have Native American flutes and drums for music.
Ooh.
When I listen to someone who's going through it and it helps them feel better.
Hold on. I have to write Native American flutes and drums because I won't remember that.
My favorite piece is Bonfire on the Beach. Yes,
Oh,
while we all
yeah.
sing and dance and playing music.
Yes.
I love bonfires. I love bonfires.
Yeah. I haven't been, yeah, we,
Eastern Mountain, man. So up, that was peaceful. So
Yeah.
one of the things
Always.
we orchestrate is like ritualistic drumming and flogging. That's how rhythm and beats actually came.
Yeah.
Was the idea of music and impact. But at Eastern Mountain, we would create these 12, 15-foot bonfires, just stacking all
Yeah.
the wood.
Yeah, and then we did burning ritual around it. So
Yeah.
like people would write up all the things that no longer serve them, and you'd write them up on little pieces of paper. And then when you were ready, like you come sort of reverently to the fire and really think about them and bless the thing you're letting go of, and then throw it in the fire, right? And then while people were doing that, there'd be other people who were drumming and people who were like flogging to the drumming. It was crazy. It was so inspiring to do. It was really that's when I feel happy to be able to facilitate that for people. It's like that those are the moments where I'm like, oh my God, like how lucky am I?
Yeah. I love fire.
Sixeruhu, we've been talking about that. Yes. Well, I just have to figure out how to get out to you.
Healing with Kay, we're gonna be out in San Diego. I'm going back out there in October for the surf festival, and then we're gonna head out to Palm Springs. I'm gonna be out there for about 2 weeks, right? We're gonna be out there in San Diego for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're going to be in San Diego with a couple days that aren't planned at this point.
Let's touch base, please. I'll shoot you a message. I'd love to connect. Let's see, there's some more. There is with my wife, myself, and nature. Outside of the house, at the beach, or in the mountains. The flutes and the drums help me connect to the earth. It's so powerful taking items that brings negative memories and throwing it into the fire and watch. Yes, yes. I love burning stuff. I love burning stuff.
I like doing it that way too, ritualistically. It's not like I'm a pyro or anything like people who are like love fire. I'm not like that, but I do love the cleansing aspect of really blessing and thanking. You know, that was something that I learned. That's another way to peace, right? Something that causes a lot of discord or things that were challenging. To really meditate on them as messengers or things or people or places that brought lessons, and to understand that I'm more of the person who I am today because of the difficulties, not despite them. And then but I don't have to hold on to them. And one of the easiest ways to let go of them is to be grateful for them, and then throw them in the fire.
So. Now, we have different forms of peace, right? Emotional, mental, physical. How would you... So, the first one is external.
Right.
And the second one is internal, right? That's how I'm processing it. So, something like that here would be the writing of your experience, right? To where you can get it out, you can share it, and people can be witness to what you experienced.
It's funny. I've done a lot of work around that whole period of time for myself, and I myself have achieved a great deal of I don't know if I would say peace, but like a lot of it settled for me. I had a lot of angst about it for a long time, and I did a lot of work around it. But as I was listening to you read, what I imagined was being able to put it all out there, because there's plenty of people who only have pieces, who only have parts, who still think of me in ways that aren't true because of things they didn't understand of what happened at the time, things that other people were responsible for that, went unacknowledged. So I just had one of those hall visions of what would it be like if I put it all down, and all of the details of it, right? It just never occurred to me. So.
Yeah. I mean, because it affects, and the way it affects BDSM, the way it affects leather in the journey is, without peace, you're not navigating from a place of internal safety, right? It limits your internal safety, because the things that are not allowing the peace to come are things that aren't processed.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right. So you make decisions through those lenses until you get to fully process, or at least start processing.
Right. Or until doing it like that doesn't work for you anymore. When it stops serving you to make decisions and operate out of your angst and out of your trauma and and it's like when the pain of changing becomes less than the pain of staying the same. When staying the way that I am actually becomes more painful, and my fear of change, I can start to make change. So long as my fear of changing is greater than my ability to tolerate the stuff I'm living in, I'll keep living right in my stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens for people, and that keeps you from having peace.
What I also learned through BDSM, leather, and kink is peace through truth, and peace through transparency, and peace through saying the things so things aren't disquieting, right?
The opposite of peace.
Like Wednesday evening, when we spoke about my plans for the evening, but I was in a totally different headspace, and you were very unsettled because it was an absence of information.
Right.
And then it was addressed, and I was able to say where I was mentally, and you were able to come down from what you were feeling.
Yeah. That was pretty good for us.
Yeah. But you can find peace through delivering truth with compassion. And it's not easy at first. It definitely is not easy.
Yeah, and in this example that you're saying, I totally agree with you. I'm the kind of person that functions better on more information than less.
And I'm an impulsive dude.
And someone who, by the way we were talking about it yesterday, has defaulted to not saying when the perception of what might happen if you do say it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So you would rather not say. When in the cases it's been between us, it'll always be more comfortable to say than to not say.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what it's taken us a while to agree, because I think your history with saying has been to be met with judgment and to be met with negativity. So why would you want to show up and tell the whole of the truth or the whole of, you know what I mean? Because it's...
Or just share information.
Or just share information, because your experience is that sometimes that was held against you or that was thrown at you. And so you come away from those experiences why would you?
Or feelings get misunderstood. The intention is misunderstood and feelings are affected by it because the person would take it one way versus what's happened.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to the managing thing.
Managing the feelings, right? And that's something that we're both trying to not have to do anymore, is manage the other one's feelings.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely one of those people. But you know, he's right. Like, that little bit of Wednesday night is something that used to blow up, be difficult, chew up more hours of energy than it did on Wednesday. So yay, good job.
Yeah, I mean, just the mental space it takes.
Yeah, it takes so much less to have hard conversations are always worth it. The hard conversations are always worth the time and energy. A hard conversation
if both parties are communicating.
Yes, a hard conversation is the hardest right before you have it. Right? What's going on in your mind about it is always worse than what actually happens when you sit down to have it. The only thing that's worse about having a hard conversation is
running out of water.
Is not having the hard conversation and then having there be more fallout from what needed to be talked about and wasn't. Right? So a hard conversation the challenge of it will escalate if you don't have it. Right? Yeah, Mary, that's true. Right? And then once you got here and we met her, it was great. Like, there was no issues at all. But I understand. You're right. That's an exactly case in point example. Like, we're most terrified about something when it's only in our heads and it hasn't happened yet.
So, Mary, can I share a little bit about that story? It was pretty funny.
It's pretty funny.
I just want to get a confirmation from Mary on Instagram that I can share the story of...
She said sure.
Awesome. So Mary Grace is my sweet little princess out in California. And she had visited, we met in downtown 3 years ago.
Yeah, and my baby girl.
And beautiful connection, like instant love. So we invited her to come out, and she came out, she hung out, and then we invited her to come back out for the People Before Kink 48-hour weekend intensive. And I was like, hey, why don't you invite your mom? And she was like, okay. And so she invited her mom to come to a kink intensive that we were hosting. She didn't tell her...
Having not shared much of that side of herself with her mom.
Yeah, right? And she told her a few days prior to them coming to New York. And it was pretty funny. I ended up speaking with her mom on the phone.
By the way...
Yeah.
Now that our trip is planned and our tickets are paid for...
it was such a fantastic meet.
And her mom had a great time and loved meeting us and connecting with what we were doing, and felt really happy to know firsthand what she's doing and the people she's doing it with. It was beautiful all the way around.
Yeah.
But yes, what did she say? Shitting a brick?
Shitting a brick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Grace is on Instagram. Slave Mary is home. I believe she's working at the moment.
Yeah. It's okay, dead girl.
Yeah, no, it's all good. All right, so peace in spaces, tranquility in spaces.
I had a thought about that a minute ago, right, when we were talking about the BDSM community. Mm-hmm. I think that when people are looking for safety, when they're out there wondering where they can go, like where are safe spaces, they're looking for places where they can engage in this stuff peacefully. Without having to feel anxious, or without having to feel threatened, be in spaces and worry about what might happen to them. Or I think the way we try to pursue safety is what brings peace in the shared kink spaces.
I didn't think about that. Peace, the ability to exist and be present.
Yeah.
Without the pressure of,
and without being afraid, right? Like that's why we're the first ones to, like, when someone wants to disrupt the peace or create an unsafe environment.
What is it? Unquieting, disquieting.
Disquieting, right? I mean, we went through a long period of time where we had like a one strike rule, blah blah blah, and then what would happen is we'd have these events, and then there'd be some bad actor who'd come in and do something stupid, untoward, make someone uncomfortable. I'd have to pull them aside and explain it to them, and they'd like whine and deny that it happened, and then I would have to spend the next however many hours following them around the space to make sure they didn't hurt anybody else,
or bother
anybody else. What I realized is my time and space was disquieted. My peace was being upset by it. Here I am at an event now, and I have to forego interacting with the 99 for the one that I got to follow around and make sure isn't a bad actor. So I went to a no strikes policy. If someone comes to me and I got to come and talk to you, the conversation we're having is that you're going to go now. And people looked at me, I'm like, I don't care. My time and peace of mind is more important than that.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not always a popular person.
No, but that's a great example. That's a very great example.
It's like the peace of the environment that we create. We go well out of our way because it's a priority of ours to make sure that we create a safe, peaceful, safe and comfortable was what I used to use to call it, but peaceful works too in this case, environment, so people had a safe place to be. Yeah, Mary, they do act right more often than not, though. That's absolutely true. And that's why it was this case of like one bad actor spoiling it for 100 people at an event. It's not like there's a bunch of people acting like that. It's usually one bad apple. I just decided that person wasn't worth all my time and energy, wasn't worth my peace of mind.
Yeah.
And like there was like a freedom light bulb went off in my head.
I remember that.
I had that moment.
We were at paddles.
Yep.
And you were like, "That's it. I'm done."
I'm done.
And that makes
around.
all the sense.
Because I'm the one who does it. Because other people's peace and safety is the most important thing to me. So once I have an identified bad actor who has already not taken no for an answer, made someone uncomfortable with an untoward advance, I can't do anything but follow you around and make sure you're not acting like a jerk for the rest of the night, because that's my value. That's how I hold myself, my responsibility. So that's when I realized that if it's between you and me in terms of peace of mind, I was going to pick me.
I look forward to paddles opening because I want to host parties again.
In an environment like that.
In a club made for it.
Yes.
Because that's a whole different Kink Collective experience than coming for education or coming for socials and open dungeon stuff like that. But or rhythm and beats for that matter. Anyway.
Yeah, rhythm and beats would be cool.
Yeah.
In a big space.
Yeah. So I found a lot of safety and peace with Thank you, Hurricane. I operate if one is uncomfortable, then we both are. Convo to come when able. Wow, I like that. If one is uncomfortable, then we both are. During the last con, I went to my hotel room. My hotel room became the peace room, the room for those that needed peace.
Nice.
Yes, feeling safe and peaceful in spaces keeps me from really joining the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still
you mean not being able to find that?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And people walk away from those experiences. That's why, as an event space holder, I found like my primary goal was to make sure that especially new people who came in had a safe experience from start to finish. Because otherwise, if it took you 2 years, let's say, to work up the courage to walk in the door, and then you come in with all your anticipation and all your nervousness and all your misconceptions in your head, and what you have is an unsafe experience, then all it does is validate all of the nasty voices in your head that told you and then you leave and you don't come back. Days, weeks, months, years before people can come back. Like that was a sacred duty to me to make sure that people didn't have that kind of an experience, at least in a space that had my name on it.
I mean, then we have if you didn't hold space for me after the really bad night, yes. Mary, listen, I was really, really happy we were there to catch. And just to be there with you for that.
Yeah. And that's it. That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah. What about on the larger scale, the community level, peace?
Yeah.
Right. For me, that comes through, again, having the hard discussions, addressing things that need to be addressed, not sweeping shit under the carpet. For example, I had a friend of ours reach out to me after having an experience in an event a couple weeks ago, and they told me what happened, and they were really upset and really distraught. And I heard their side, and as an event host, I know that there's way more sides to a story. So I sat and I held space. I held space for him. I held space for his partner. And then I contacted the event organizer. And I said, hey, Joshua, checking in. How are you doing all this stuff? Because we hadn't spoken in a while. And I said, listen, someone close to me had an experience at your space. And I wanted to touch a base with you so that you're aware and that you can handle it in a way that preserves the community.
Right.
And I coached him through some of it, through what he was experiencing on the managerial end emotionally, right? Because it can be hard when there's miscommunication, misunderstandings, and finger pointing right off the bat. And it's like, to be able to walk people through the same things we've experienced and to help them interpret and reinterpret what they're hearing from each other, the decisions they're making in their best interest to maintain peace and to maintain order within this process. It was incredible. At the end of it, there was reconciliation, there was discussions, and reformative and transformative approaches to, well, what did we learn from here and how do we adjust it? Which was mind-blowing. Yeah. And it just brings more peace to the community because everyone was taking their steps, everyone was being responsible and owning their parts of it.
People don't realize how much it contributes to a lack of peace or a lack of cohesion in the community when the attitude is, oh, this is just me and mine over here, right? Like, oh, we'll just do what we do over here and we don't have any involvement. This is way too small of a community, and if New York City's like this, it has to be this almost everywhere. Right? It's like, it's not that many people that are active in this community and in this lifestyle. There's only so many places to
consistently
go,
active,
right? Consistently active. So the same people are, if someone's coming to my space, there's a really good chance they're going to your space. And it serves neither of us to act like we live in a vacuum, right? Like, well, you just come to my space and then like, what, you don't exist when you're out? It's like, it's just not, it doesn't serve anyone.
Also turning people away at the door to maintain peace.
Well.
Right, knowing that certain people's attendance creates unsettling.
Right. Well, people who we know that are essentially bad actors, people who come in and don't know how to, we know they don't know how to honor other people's boundaries or take no for an answer, and then they show up, and then the choice for us is, do we let them in and run the risk of doing that again, or do we just say, hey, like, our experience with you is that you don't play the way we play. And it's not to make anybody else wrong. It's just to say, this is how we play in our space. And
now I have another perspective.
What's that?
And it's about safe space and when something has to be addressed on an individual level versus a community level.
Okay.
Meaning someone comes in and an outfit they have on offends a person. Right? There's a shirt that says something and the person doesn't like what it says. Now, that's a person-to-person thing. You as an individual are feeling some kind of way about their shirt, but their shirt isn't disquieting the place. Mm-hmm. It's you being triggered by what they're wearing. So like if a person wore red and red makes you think about something that happened in the past, you've got to handle that.
Right.
Now, if the person comes into the space and unsettles the whole space by their offensiveness, then they have to be addressed on what's causing the rift.
The larger unrest.
Yeah. Right? So it's like peace is going to...
And that's not always easy to navigate, right? Because if the person who's offended by their own experience gets loud or they're that kind of person, it can make it seem like it's more... I mean, an event space producer can be pushed to want to feel like there's something they need to do about that otherwise non-offensive t-shirt because of the way the person who's triggered is feeling, right? So you really have to like walk a calm line with yourself to be able to see those things clearly as they're happening.
Yeah.
Right? Because when feelings get high around stuff like that, it's not always easy to see the path of who's being upset by what, what's the appropriate way to handle it. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 12:57. That was fast.
That was a fast hour.
Thank
you, everybody. It was really great to see all of you. Your comments were awesome.
I really like the numbers grew today. Thank you, Instagram, for sticking with us. Thank you, TikTok.
Yeah. Mary Grace, Dead Girl, Hurricane.
Everyone.
All you guys. Fatally Yours. I don't know if... Oh, there she is. She's still here.
So if you guys are in New York, we have our open play party tonight.
Yeah.
Open dungeon space tonight.
Yeah.
And then we have Kinky Stories tomorrow night. It's always an awesome time. Mary, I miss you too. We miss you too.
Just,
soon.
Put aside plane money and come back.
Soon.
Only you could teleport, right?
Let's see. So tomorrow's question is, do you know what it means to take up space? Do you believe that you do? What does and would it look like? I'm going to get into a multi-dimensional answer to this one.
Wow.
I really love the take up space question because people have different relationships with taking up space.
That's true.
Right? For
That's
some,
true.
it's a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
For others, it's a positive. It's an empowering thing. So...
And in order to be prepared for these conversations, yesterday I posted all of these individual TikToks on FetLife by the day. So if you want to take a peek at what question we'll be talking about on a particular day, just drop into FetLife and look for the TikTok for the day, and the question's right in. It's actually right in the subtitle. So you don't even have to click it open. You just have to go to it and see what we're going to be talking about.
Awesome. Folks, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you guys are learning as much as we are.
Right.
And we will see you guys tomorrow. At 12 o'clock.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.